Hello. How's it going, guys? Friends, acquaintances, associates. How's it going, guys? Okay. We are going to start out the stream, like always, like we always do, with some coffee. I have to... Something's on my mug. Oh, it's a sticker. All right. All right, let's see if we did a good job. Second in chat. Congratulations, Paul and Oliver. Congrats, guys. You guys were among the first, the most dedicated of people. Hmm. All right. All right, guys. How is everyone? Everyone doing good? We are about to release our next video, The System of Objects. Wait, Bogdan. You're playing Hitman. You know what's really funny about that? Before we were streaming, I was playing Hitman. I was playing Hitman 3, actually, as we speak. I was wondering, too, later on, if I was going to do a Hitman stream as well. I love the Hitman series. That's so funny. I was literally, before we started streaming, I was playing some Hitman. Right now, I'm on Hitman 3. I'm on the mansion mission. It's actually really cool. I'm doing the detective sort of like objective playthrough. So Hitman 3 came out. Hitman 3 came out only on Epic Game Stores. I'm not okay with Epic. I don't and yeah, Hitman stream would be nice. Hell yeah. I don't fuck around with Epic Game Store. So, I don't think I've ever said this on stream. I torrented the shit out of that. Epic Games, if you hear me, that's right. Never mind. I could get in trouble for this. I won't say any more. Maybe I did buy your game. Maybe I didn't. The world may never know. All I know is Epic Games, if you were listening to me, YouTube, if you are listening to me on their behalf, fuck you. I think you are incredibly anti-consumer and you suck. All right. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to this next video quite a bit. Whether it's, like our best video that we've done yet, that's always the objective, right? But you can never completely guarantee that. But I hope I find the System of Objects to be among the most interesting videos that we have done, and Baudrillard and just the book itself is among the most interesting things that I've read. It's sort of like this structural precursor to later Baudrillard thought. Sup, Ian? How's the copyright fiasco going? It's going all right. So that was another problem, guys. The video would probably be out by now, but I got hit by copyright after copyright. So, here's the concern. We can talk about this a little bit. This is really bad. The new what's going on with copyright right now is it's an issue. It's like the biggest issue actually I think I've ran into. So what typically happens on YouTube, DM, I'll answer that too. I've heard it's his most boring book. It probably is his most boring book, but it's very good in a lot of ways. We can go into that as well. But the problem that's going on with copyright right now on YouTube, I think they just added a visual algorithm for their copyright mechanisms. So a lot of the times when you upload a video, they catch copyrighted stuff via audio, right? And there's ways to get past that. There's a ton of different ways to get past that. A lot of the times it's not even that big of a deal because it's audio, right? You can always try to siphon through that. People edit the audio as for the algorithm not to pick it up. First time ever, in the system of objects, I was getting hit with visual copyright. So down the pipeline, YouTube has developed an algorithm or something that is now detecting visual stuff, and that's never happened to me. I think that must be brand new, but if it was brand new, I figured people would be talking about it because that's a huge deal, guys. If they're starting to detect copyright footage with visual stuff, that's a huge fucking deal. That's so huge. I don't know what I'll do. Like, that's what I was saying. Like, I made a tweet and I went on to my Instagram story and was just kind of talking about it. It's like, guys, 3 years from now, our videos aren't going to be videos. They're going to be fucking podcasts. Like, I'm not going to be able to, like, do anything with it, like, visual-wise. What I could do, but then I wouldn't be able to make as many videos if that was the case, right? So a lot of people, a lot of YouTubers, for example, a channel called Let Me Know makes incredibly wonderful videos, wonderfully edited, but he hand edits everything. Like, he draws it in After Effects. He uses, like, you think my editing process is hard? It is pretty hard. It's time consuming. His is like, that's why he only releases a video every 2 months or so. It's either going to go that way, which I don't want it to, because I think that's quite unnecessary. So it's either that or I incorporate this beautiful camera into the mix, where I'll have to start making videos with the what's the channel name again? Let Me Know. He's just makes, it's not like a philosophy channel or anything. He just makes just normal videos about shit, but his editing is wonderful. LEMMINO. But yeah, I think I might. I try to avoid. So guys, I know this doesn't bother a lot of people, but it sometimes will bother me. I get pretty ooh, my camera lens is there we go. Get that focus working again. My I sometimes when I like videos where the narrator doesn't show their face. I like videos where people aren't standing in front of a camera. I like having visual footage for context of what people are saying all the time. I know that doesn't bother most people. It doesn't, the overwhelming majority of people are totally fine. That's like 80% of content on YouTube is of a camera at someone's face. I don't want to do that. I don't like that. I like having a more filmic presentation, right? I like having a presentation where there's footage, there's this artistic tonality that I've already sort of nailed down as my central aesthetic. I don't want to have to sacrifice that, that really sucks in a lot of ways. Deep fry them. So Brett, that's the scary thing, is that I already do deep fry the fuck out of my clips. Yeah, film criticism YouTube would be so much, but yeah, absolutely. It's fucked, guys. It's really, really bad. And in the weirdest way, it hurts YouTube. But this is the thing. I think someone was talking about this before. It's on purpose. It's totally on purpose, guys. YouTube has become such a large platform that what happens is there's a cohesive decision on the parts of corporations, intellectual property owners, that this is what they're going to do. Corporations would rather spend the cash, because they have the cash. They would rather spend the cash on the rights for footage rather than allowing footage to circulate and independent content creators can use it. And thus, what they're trying to do is they're trying to kick smaller content creators off the platform. So instead of just using free footage as a corporation themselves and not, putting copyright restrictions on everything, no. What they are doing is what they want is that they'll spend all the money all day. They have deep pockets. They'll do it all day long. Just so smaller content creators like me or other people can't compete. They're trying to essentially completely strip the platform out of any smaller actors. And that's 100% what's happening, for sure. Do you not read body language as an understanding for what they're saying? No, yeah, but I like I said, it's the actual visual aesthetic that I like more. I like having I like having footage. Wait, what's happening? Can someone TLDR me? Poop. I'm running into copyright issues bad, and for the first time, I've been getting copyright striked on visual cues. So YouTube usually detects copyright through audio, but right now I'm getting hit on visual things, which has never happened to me before, and I think it's relatively new. So yeah. I've seen so many channels moving to Vimeo only to get no views there. Oh God, like, is there channels that have been doing that? That's fucking, oh God. That sucks. I mean, it's like what I'm worried, guys, and I do not want to do this. I don't want to do this. What worries me is what okay, I don't want to do this, although I might be forced to, is to have a setup where I, like, maybe on YouTube I have, this is what I do. On YouTube I have the podcast format of my videos, so I'll have videos like of me just narrating, and then maybe Patreon, I have a separate upload for people on Patreon. But then like my videos, you have to fucking pay money for that shit. I don't like that. I already make exclusive content. I hate that. That sucks so bad. That's terrible. It might have to happen. A lot of people have been doing this. So for example, there's like YouTube channels like Sean, guys. You know Sean, the fucking skull dude. Dude, his fucking videos they're just it's just one picture and a 2-hour long commentary thing of him. I do not want to do that. That's nightmarish shit to me. That's nightmare. It's a pain in the ass. My videos take a long time to make, but I like doing, it's my art, Bureaucracy cited institutional rules as a justification of deleting culture to maintain. Yeah, it's just, yeah, I think in a lot of ways. What it says too about, Zizek talks about this, about current capitalism. It's like, what is this other than a new form of, like, it's platform control. It's not about competition, right? So it's not two actors, two parties, two different businesses, two different competitors competing against each other. That's not the point. It's not the content of your product or your service. Outcompeting them in that realm isn't what you want to do. That's not what not what they care. That's not what capitalism is anymore. It's controlling a platform. It's to allow other people not to compete. And that to me is so fucking insanely criminal in so many ways. Right? And this is, this is going into other realms. But it's kind of like, honestly, guys, like this, the idea of like, a liberal basis of market competition, it's really not that bad. Like, we can talk all day about the merits of that and how shitty, like, a lot of Enlightenment liberalism is, but like, we're in a way worse spot than that. Like, people bitch about liberals all the time. We don't even have liberalism. It doesn't fucking exist. Like, the ideas of equal market competition and stuff, that's not a fucking thing. That's not a thing. It's not. Like, you'll hear, like, it just doesn't exist, right? It's just it's controlling platforms and complete hierarchical top-down control, and then you have to compete within those parameters set by other individuals. Sean would benefit from more visuals. I'm not gonna, I don't want to shit on, okay, I don't want to, so I think this stuff, like, it's enjoyable for a lot of people. I just don't, I'm kind of surprised Sean's as big as he is. I really am. Cause that dude, you can tell he just, like, makes a video as someone who edits videos and knows the process. A lot of YouTubers I've seen, and this actually kind of makes me mad. I don't like this because it's super fucking dishonest. It's super dishonest, guys. There's a ton of content creators that will continually tell people on their social media, on Patreon, they will be like, guys, my videos take a long time to make, like, be patient. No, that's fine. Like, pressuring someone to just go put out their stuff. There could be a million reasons why they're not putting out videos, or, you know, their mental health isn't in a good state. They got a lot of shit going on the side. But a lot of these people make tons of fucking money. They make tons of money. It's likely that's not the case. And then they lie to their audience, likely because what they're doing is they're probably just sitting on their ass and taking people's money off Patreon. And then they're telling them they'll make a video once every 3 or 4 months because it takes a really long time to do it. That's bullshit. I don't know if Sean does this. I'm not sure. I have no idea. And I hate that. I hate that because it's so fucking dishonest. There is so many fucking dishonest YouTubers and grifters. Oh my God. And they make so much money. It's crazy how people, and this wouldn't be a problem, right, if it wasn't normal people funding them. That's actually, like, honestly, it would be killer if someone like Sean was like, or I don't know, I don't want to use Sean. He's a lot of people make videos like that, and then their patrons are like $7K a month, and then they make a video every 3 to 4 months, and they sit, and then they continually tell their audience, who are like, hey, when's your next video? You haven't made a video in a long time. My videos take so long to make. No, they don't. They take that would take them like it would take me a couple days to do, if that. And so, yeah, and I'm sure Sean's content's perfectly fine, like, absolutely. I get kind of fed up with, you know, a lot of the dishonesty you see. Starting to make YouTube videos and paying attention to the content sphere around me, I've actually realized how much content creators lie about shit. A lot. Capitalism doesn't equal markets. Yeah, exactly. Like, in a lot of ways, like, markets as something that's like of equal standing for everyone else, you know? Philip Mirowski talks about how neoliberals want to create platforms for peer reviewing. So, oh my God. Oh, that's terrifying. Got any Sigtanot? If I'm pronouncing that correct. Got any plans after uni? My plans after uni is to try my best and work as hard as I can to see if I can do this full time. That is going to be my goal. This is, guys, starting with this channel growing more and more and more and growing more and more and more, and being able to make better and more and more videos. Like, school feels like the biggest barrier and waste of time in my life right now at this point. Like, the absolute biggest waste of time. Every minute that I spend doing fucking bullshit, bureaucratic, meaningless tasks that are just set up from half the time a professor who just assigns the most meaningless work. It feels so wasteful. Like, I could be spending time reading the German ideology. I could be spending time actually learning stuff that I will apply to videos, and you know, and I can do stuff with that. It's not about me. Like, I would enjoy my life more, but not only would I enjoy life more, I'd be able to give you guys something. Like, it's just, I'd be able to provide something that's actually kind of meaningful. Like, truly, guys, that's one of the biggest reasons why I want to do this. Is it's like I make no money doing this, like almost nothing. But I don't know, man. It's pretty fucking meaningful to me, anyways. I think a visual learning is something that's pretty important to a lot of people, and a lot of people they don't read. They're not able to. There's literacy problems. That's totally legit. And then 2, time, and then 3, it's just difficult. And so I think video can help fix that a lot, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do. Am I studying preach? Yeah, I think this is a common problem for a lot of students that they feel. Are you studying philosophy in uni? I'm not. I'm actually, it shocks a lot of people. I'm studying political science and history. If I could go back, I would probably do philosophy, though. You know, it's really weird. I've been told, so I would likely do, so I make continental philosophy videos and theory videos. If I was actually at university, it would be, arguably, I would, in some ways, prefer to study analytical philosophy, because it would give me 2 angles in which I could approach things. That's awesome. That's so cool. That's exactly the point. Assassin's Weed. That is like the goal is, and this is, and we're going through something beyond this, where I think some people think this is yeah, some people think that this is some cringy thing to say, or that it's elitist to claim this. I fucking hate that. I hate it. But I think one of the best things that we could do is to create a society in a political realm where people are the intellectuals themselves. Now, hold the fuck on. Hold the fuck on. I know a lot of Marxists who would hear that. I've actually been told, I've been told from a lot of people, when Mao says that, correctly says that, I think Mao thinks one of the biggest barriers to an emancipatory system past capitalism is that there is literacy issues. There are issues with access to information in some ways. There's some irony in that, given the Communist Party in China. But that people need to become the intellectuals. And that's true. It is true. And I hold the exact same position, where we need to be extremely well acquainted with prior history, prior philosophy, ideas. We need to be acquainted with critical thinking, stuff like that. And I think that we don't, even beyond that, in the political sphere, we don't take a truly intellectual approach to politics either. Politics is sort of a game. It's sort of a structured, rigid, like bullshit game, and I don't like that. There's nothing critical about politics right now. We need an education revolution. Yeah, in a lot of ways, absolutely. I'm studying critical oh, okay. As a future teacher, that's awesome. What do you think about jurisprudence? Once capitalism is superseded, what new laws will be introduced? Thanks. Well, so what is jurisprudence again? I forgot. Jurisprudence. Let's look this up. What is just the okay, the field of legal study. Well, clearly, so I don't know. I don't think that's actually okay. We're going into different realms here, but that's okay. I don't think, guys, the idea where that seems like that would be in shaky ground. Where does law go after capitalism? It's because we actually have the default position that there would be something quote unquote revolutionary as our institutions go. Guys, I'm almost positive now. I don't think socialism is going to happen from a complete overthrow of bourgeoisie institutions. It's not going to. Like, I'm kind of to the point where, or at least if it does, it's going to have to be in a completely different realm than the traditional Marxist-Leninist approach. Completely. Marxism's totally insufficient at this. Completely. And people who say Marxism and Leninism, and people, I think this is something that a lot of people feel antagonistic towards. But for people who, they say, like, no, what do you mean? Like, that's not, it's not like we had two revolutions. We had two revolutions in Russia and China. True. And that's great. And that's wonderful. But they capitulated. And it's not necessarily their fault, right? It's capitalism is such a fucking monster that I think what needs to happen, and it's really mind-blowing in another vein that Marxists find this like as a like controversial, that we need a new approach to Marxism. Like, maybe if revolutionary politics, there needs to be new revolutionary politics or new revolutionary Marxism. Nonetheless, let's develop that. Let's do that. Let's have that discussion. I just still, even on top of that, I'm not exactly sure that would even work. I don't know if the institutions at bay can really be broken down from the typical Marxist-Leninist form. It's going to have to take a different approach. And a lot of people have talked about, not a lot of people, but a few people have talked about how what might ironically happen is there might be a private communism, a private revolution. And what they mean by that is it's going to be a revolution within industry and with production itself. So, but it's going to take a while. And what we'll see potentially is that things like open source technology will start taking over, and producers are going to realize, especially with automation as well, this will just fast track this, that in order for their technological development to proceed, it cannot be hampered down by market exchange. It can't be it'll essentially just be limited by capitalism itself. That technological progress won't be able to happen under a commodified system as we see it today. And from there, what we may start seeing is different forms of production, especially, and this is especially true with stuff like software. That already exists right now. Software resists intellectual property pretty hard. Not all the time, obviously. A lot of people, they try their best to charge for their intellectual property, but there's a lot of open source technological development that happens all the time, guys. Can't be bogged down by copyright and sales rights. In a lot of ways, yeah. So, but that would obviously be a very long-term development. And then there is a very urgent argument to be made against that because of climate change, right? Like, do we have the time to even do that? And that's beyond valid. Bailey Williamson, hey dad. What's up, Bailey? What's going on, man? Zizek's last interview with Zero Books, he said Hegel would feel like a fish in water during the 20th century. Oh yeah, big emancipatory projects developing into their opposite. That's exactly what's happened though, right? This is where a lot of guys, I hate this. Marxists are so anti-dialectical in some ways. Like maintaining, being within the theoretical terrain of Marxism, Leninism by default is anti-dialectical, right? It's ending the process as we know it. And the defense of Marxism, Leninism is insanely anti-dialectical, right? Yeah, so I think that in a lot of ways, some of the most realistic systems past capitalism are going to be things like democratic socialism, where I think we're going to have, we've talked about this a lot, where I think that what will likely happen is we're going to have a robust private sector with a robust public sector with a very robust private sector in the name of like co-ops and stuff like that. But I don't know. This is all obviously very much up in the air. But there is so much hippie apolitical bullshit in the movement that hampered it a lot. In Marxism, Leninism, there was hippie shit, really? I mean, I'm not like, if that's what you're referring to, I'm confused. Maybe there was, maybe there wasn't. I don't know. You ever read Graham Harman on object-oriented ontology? No, I haven't. Graham Harman, I've heard people talk about Graham Harman. And I'll go up chat. I don't think with climate change we should take a while, even if the gradual approach works. I think it needs hard revolutionary push. Well, yeah, that's the problem, right? It's like even if there was a private revolution, as Zizek calls it, of a system past capitalism, it would take a long time in order for that to truly happen. And then with climate change staring right down at us, breathing right down our neck, that's a big fucking problem, right? And I don't think we should limit ourselves with revolutionary language as so much to say that like it's not revolutionary unless you crush bourgeoisie institutions. I don't think that's correct. I think that there are many smaller revolutions that happen all the time, in some ways that permanently alter those institutions as well. But I guess that's a semantic. That's up to semantics, I suppose. It's good. I watched the Chomsky AMA right after. It just felt like the right thing to do. Yeah, so climate change is one of the biggest. I mean, that is, if not the biggest, for urgent revolutionary politics, right? I just think we're really bad, guys. We're really bad at truly, the left is so fucking bad at revolutionary politics. Truly, like insanely bad. And it sucks. The Metamorphosis of oh, thank you so much.
The Metamorphosis of Plants by Goethe is a great dialectical text.
Thank you so much. Sorry, my volume was turned down. Thank you so much, Mateo. Metamorphosis of Plants by Goethe. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Is a great dialectical text. That's interesting. I'll have to look into that. The Metamorphosis of Plants. I'm curious. What's that go into a little bit? That's really cool though. Metamorphosis of Plants. Interesting. Thank you so much for the $10, dude. Really, thank you so much. You ever watch Tadas Vineker video from YouTube? He's a philosophy person who's in EU Parliament. Oh no, I haven't. I have not. Bailey, I'm gonna have to come over so you can learn me what the heck you're talking about. Gotcha. Yeah, guys, Bailey Williamson in chat. It's like he's my best friend. Yeah, dude, Bailey. It's not. I swear to God, it's not as complicated as what you think. It's just stupid fucking language. It's philosophy language and stuff like that. All of this is just resisting Taoism, to be honest. Yeah, in some ways. So Bailey, for example, we've talked about dialectics. A lot of people are kind of confused on what the fuck dialectics mean and shit like that. So Bailey, one thing, if you want to learn, guys, I don't know about you in chat as well. Didn't Hegel change your fucking life? Hegel changed my fucking life. I know that. Jesus fucking Christ. Like the idea, dialectics as a whole is still so insane to me. It's still insane. Like, I still think the minute that I started understanding dialectics and started seeing the world in that sense, holy fuck, Jesus Christ. So Bailey, like, essentially, you know how like when we think in like logic, like in what we would call empiricism, like normal terms, like we think of things as stagnant entities, right? So things, right? This book is a book, right? That's how our traditional way of looking at shit is. This is a fucking book. It's just a solid, it's not doing anything. It's just a solid object. Looking at this book through a dialectical lens, it's looking at it as a process and going through something. So, and then this can kind of be considered something else, something called process ontology, but dialectics and process ontology are super similar. Instead of this being just a book, we can't really say that this is just a book. It's paper. It was a tree at once, and then it was turned into paper, and it went through a process. It went through an entire process, and it's not really just a book, right? And so that's just with like objects. That's just with things, right? Dialectics plays larger, much more abstract roles. But yeah, Hegel was the sort of, he wasn't the godfather. The Greeks really thought dialectically, but if anything, Hegel like kind of mastered that shit. Yeah, books are machines in some ways, right? So essentially, like dialectic shows like how you take two opposites, you take two approaches, and then you there's a sort of, in the most basic abstract sense, there's a synthesis, like there's a position that meets here, and then there's a process that goes forward until you reach, in Hegelian terms, the Geist or ultimate knowing or whatever. Fucking Buddhists might call it nirvana or some shit. I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'm too much. I don't know about you guys. I don't know if I buy into the Geist that much, the spirit. But yeah. I thought I was through with Hegel, only to realize I never. Same. So many. There's been a couple times where I'm like, yeah, dialectics are cool, and then when I realize, I'm like, wait a second, nope. You can't escape Hegel, man. No, seriously, I'm being fucking for real, guys. People say this all that, like, this is what pisses me off, man. Hegel, you can't fucking escape Hegel. Yeah, so essentially, a good metaphor is cum isn't just cum; it's also a baby. That's right. That's fucking right, actually, kind of, in a weird way. Yeah, it's that sperm. Yeah, exactly. The synthesis of sperm in some female's egg is a fucking fetus. That's exactly what that is. So, dude, that's actually not the worst. That's not the worst analogy I've ever heard for that. Yeah, everything's in process, though. Like, everything is going through a process of time, and everything ebb and flows. So the best example, the best material example that I've heard is that is through Frederick Engels. He talked about how cells, so like our body right now, are shedding cells and creating new ones as we speak. So like, think about that. Who we can't say who we are in a stagnant position. We aren't like anything. We're going through a process. Our cells are dying while our body's creating new ones just as we speak. Thus, we're going through a process, right? You aren't you in just a couple, like within seconds, your entire material form is permanently different. So there's a scientific tonality to it as well. So yeah, guys, Bailey's my friend. I don't think he's not into philosophy like a lot of us. So I'm just sort of, if you guys are anyone new in here is kind of confused, that's Hegel actually never wrote. Yes, that's correct. Thesis, antithesis, and synthesis is not Hegel. That's correct. But here's the thing. I hear that a lot. Like a lot of that's the typical Reddit thing. Is like, that's actually not Hegelian dialectics. No, it's not. But in a lot of ways, it's a good representation. I don't think people shit on thesis, antithesis. I can't ever say that correctly. And then synthesis. I think it's a pretty good abstract like illustration of how dialectics work. I don't completely hate that. I think it's a little bit. It can be. Some people can get a little bit arrogant and elitist when talking about that. But yeah, it's definitely more abstract than that. Is Hegel dead, or are we dead in the eyes of Hegel? Deleuze and Derrida and Baudrillard all want to escape Hegel, but they are still using his stuff. It's all a hauntology. That's another thing too. And then not only that, like even aside from hauntology, right? When they're still talking about him, and they're still, yeah, absolutely. Hegel is a hauntology in many ways, but also too, in a lot of ways, like Deleuzian process metaphysics, guys, and this is Zizek's critique of it. It's like, it's still pretty fucking Hegelian. It's still pretty close to Hegel, right? Still pretty close. Yeah, fuck you, Caesar. Kant was cooler. Oh, I don't think so. I really like Kant. I say that as someone who I really like Kant. I don't know though. I think Hegel's more encompassing though, you know? Truly. German idealism and the Jena romantics are still. Oh, guys, yes, 100%. So we've talked about this. So like, great. Our next video is the system of objects, guys. What is the analysis within the system of objects, and like how capitalism reverts back to German idealism like that? Like, isn't it so weird? So guys, we have a Patreon exclusive video where we kind of had this similar discussion. Where I just released it yesterday, actually. So if any of you guys are interested, hey, maybe go check it out. But we discussed sort of like materialism. I think the best way to approach materialism is materialism going through a dialectical process that ruptures from materialism, right? But then, of course, people are like, that's not materialism anymore. Okay, whatever. Fuck. I don't care. This is another way language might be completely insufficient. But what I see the best approach with materialism is that what happens through material, right? So material constitutes, it's the baseline of our consciousness from material, from our body, the environment around us, consciousness is formed. But then you hit a point where that consciousness will then start to affect the material around you. And then what does that say other than that materialism and idealism are truly like a false dichotomy in the long run? Like most things, though. Right? Like most things. Most philosophical concepts in some ways are sort of false dichotomies in a lot of ways. They're just separated by language, and in that way, language is insufficient at elaborating stuff in the world because everything's interconnected. But yeah, through the process of materialism, it reverts back onto its head. Later capitalism is so well examined through the lens of German idealism now. It's really weird how it happens. You talking about Noumena? Like Fang Noumena by Nick Land? I have not read it. I have no idea. I don't know shit about Nick Land, guys. A lot of people talk about it. David, thank you so much.
The poverty of language. Spinoza quote.
It's very true. I think that's why a lot of people love Spinoza. Spinoza's the shit. I actually haven't read Spinoza's text, but everything I've heard from Spinoza's fucking sick. It's true though. The poverty of language, like it's totally, language as we know it is so insufficient. In some ways, guys, it's not. I think we can go beyond language as well. But here we're getting to linguistics, where this is a curious thing that I would. This is something I would ask a linguist, but I don't know, like, how do we account for dialectics in language, right? Because our language is structured around empiricism. It's structured around what Engels would call Lockean metaphysics. Is it not? That's exactly what it is. I think Kant never leaving his hometown gave him an edge, creating a system to be used as a critique tool throughout. Interesting. Okay. Oh, I'm talking about Kantian Numina. Oh, gotcha. Maybe, perhaps. I'm not exactly sure. Kant is so fucking dense. Most of what I've actually never. Well, I have read Kant. A lot of what I know from Kant is actually from philosophy classes where we covered Kant in an abstract sense. I need to read Kant, but oh my god, I know it's going to be hard. Kant's a pretty dry read, but so is a lot of late philosophy anyways, you know? It's not really all that fun. That's why I have to mix it up with people like Mark Fisher. I find a lot of later, like truly contemporary philosophy so much more fun to read because it's a little bit more. It's not like Kant's irrelevant, but it's like it's a little bit more presently relevant, right? I have to mix it up. That's why reading a lot of old historical philosophy really can hurt. Fang Numina is when you read a bunch of cyberpunk, then take meth. As I hear. I'm actually really curious. I will want to read Nick Land. If anything, I'll probably make a video about it. I don't think there is a video about Nick Land's sort of philosophy. And if there is, I don't know if I'd trust any content creators to make a fucking video truly encompassing his work. I hardly trust myself, but I feel like I do an okay job. I do a better job than most other YouTubers, not to sound too high horsey, but it's just there's not a lot of philosophy YouTube, especially in the context of like me or how someone like Pills will cover works in depth. I definitely kind of like a different. A lot of people talk about concepts in video form, and it makes sense. It makes perfect sense because concepts are easier to cover in video form than just an actual book. But I'm hoping that I can make like supplemental video guides to books for people, and they can be fun, entertaining, and artistic and high quality. A quick rundown on acceleration is a pretty good video in my opinion. Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I know that's the ethos, the sort of baseline of Nick Land is like accelerationist thought as to escape capitalism, but that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of people. So so I'm not exactly sure. Oh, all right. Didn't he just say we have zero possibility to talk about OB outside of phenomena? I don't know. Yeah, well, that's the thing. That's the current idea is that the best accelerationism, the best way to get past capitalism is the failure of capitalism. But as we see, it doesn't work like that, right? So we can't get overly religious with this, right? Marx and Engels would have thought capitalism would be dead by now, I'm sure. I think. At least when we look back, how many crises we've had from capital itself. Like, holy fuck, guys. When Marx and Engels talk about how capitalism fails, they correctly point this out. How capitalism fails all the time. They would have never imagined how well it gets up off its feet. Holy shit, is capitalism resilient as fuck. It is so resilient. And in that sense, like, that's scary, right? And there's more work to be done on that. Hegel is hyped for an end of history. That'll again too. Oh god, that'll never happen either. Is Zizek cameo in Bliss? It was so weird. No, I have not. I think, but not really, because we also have to consider his position of what cognition was aside from the phenomena of things that just exist within a schema as a priori. Yeah, truly, guys, this is my problem with overly positive politics. Is it's just sort of it's dishonest, right? I find ideological Cope to be a little bit dishonest on his own. And we don't have the answers on how to end capitalism. Marxism, guys, is not oh god. Marxism is not a perfect religious spiritual text. It's not a it's not a guideline, according to Twitter, a guideline on how to beat capitalism or some shit. It's not. Like, it's just totally insufficient in so many ways, and that's okay. So is everything else. Right? Everything's insufficient. That's the entire fucking point. This vid on accelerationism, gotcha. I heard Nick Land is a bit of a fascist. He's a bit of a right winger now, at least compared to his like original prior accelerationist theory. Fukuyama. Yeah, I haven't read Fukuyama either. That would be interesting. I know he's a right wing Hegelian. Although, didn't Fukuyama support Bernie Sanders? I think he did, which is really interesting. Yo mama's ass is insufficient. Well, maybe. Pretty far right. Yeah, I think there's just look again, as I said, guys, and I think the only potential solutions to this insufficiency of philosophy and theory, and even practical politics, the insufficiency of everything to completely solve our immediate problems. I mean, we'll always be insufficient in some ways. Is truly like there's a couple things that we can do, and the answers don't rely. The answers don't lie in prior historical texts. It relies on something new. And again, I think creating a society that approaches politics from an intellectual viewpoint that's really critical is super important. In some ways, we already do that, right? And some people scoff at that idea. They think it's some elitist thing. Intellectualism and elitism are totally two different things. I hate that. But where every normal working class person can have genuine critical thought, critical thinking, stuff like that. I think having an approach like that where I think that's literacy, stuff like that is super important, but we don't talk about that enough at all. We talk about a lot of prior theory in a religious context as to solve our issues, which sucks. Thank you so much, David. Thank you so much.
Is capitalism as resilient as theft because it is theft? Bourgeoisie theft of value created by workers?
That's a really interesting question. Thank you so much for the $5, David. Is capitalism as resilient as theft because it is theft? Yeah. Yeah, in some ways. Absolutely. It's a good way to put it. It's it's an elusive form of theft, right? It's the most elusive form of theft, you know? You're right. I think, Ben, you said it's not resilient because of ideology. Right. There's an ideological tonality to theft, right? We can justify everything through ideology, just about everything. And I think there's, right, everything can be reinforced through ideological lenses, but of course, baked in within capitalism itself is an ideology of theft, for sure. Absolutely. I think that, I truly, I think we talked about this last stream too, guys. We don't talk enough about ideology. Not that we talk, I don't even want to say that we talk too much about the political economy, because the political economy is so important, but that we don't talk about its opposite fucking bastard opposite stepbrother as an ideology. Political economy and ideology absolutely reinforce each other. GMAC, Ayo, how's it going, GMAC? What's going on, dude? Agilus Vasilis? Have you ever saw Yanis for new system? No, I don't. Feel free, put in chat what give us some little spark notes. I'm not sure. But yeah, we don't talk about, guys, we don't talk enough about ideology. We don't talk about ideology enough, right? It's lib shit to talk about ideology. But this is the one thing, the left's really good at looking at things through the political economy, and that's great, right? That's wonderful. The political economy answers a shit ton of stuff. But we get into trouble where I think we can justify everything through the political economy or quid pro quo. Not everything is quid pro quo. Again, I might be beating a dead horse. We've talked about this a lot. Not everything is quid pro quo. Politicians don't do shit just to get rich. Like, it's if anything, that's an ideal. That's almost since in some ways It's ideological in some ways to think that politicians just do shit to get rich. They just reinforce the will of their donors. And they do that. That's the totality of their action. But as an idea or an ideal, the justification that comes with that, no, it's far more deeper. It's capitalist ideology in so many ways. Yeah, no. I Bogdan, yeah, I say that as like quote unquote. A lot of I'm online too much. If you cannot tell, I hate the whole fucking lefties calling everyone liberals. It's the most stupid shit ever. Everyone's a fucking liberal. You live in the fucking you live in Europe and the United States. You're a fucking liberal. I don't care how Marxist you are. You are. Anyways, Zizek and relevancy of the Communist Manifesto elaborates. Yeah. Yep. In order. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was one of my favorite parts of that book was that in so many ways, well, that goes back to our conversation about German idealism and how capitalism reverts back to this idealism, right? Or at least where capital is now accumulated within air. There isn't a material referent for money really anymore. And that's aside from fiat, right? We've already gone. Most people just would claim fiat. No, it's actually deeper. The system of production itself and economics as a whole, right? We've created an order of rich people who get rich off of fucking an established system of debt, right? And debt in some ways has no material referent, especially when it comes to something like education, right? J-Man, how do you theorize me putting my nuts on your chin? Fuck off, J-Man. You're not allowed in here. No, I'm just kidding. No, you should be training for your Rainbow Six tournaments, J-Man. Your time is wasted here talking about all this dumb shit that we're talking about. No, guys, me and J-Man, I used to play Rainbow Six Siege a lot. I'm sure some of you guys have played Siege. I used to play it all the time. J-Man here, he's got a YouTube channel actually. You guys should check it out. Me and him used to play a Rainbow Six a lot together, and I used to get really I would get so Rainbow Six. I don't think I've ever played a video game that's pissed me off as much as Rainbow Six because I oh my god, I would get so fucking tilted. It's still a beautiful game. It's wonderful, but holy shit, is it competitive? It's gone. Trying to enlighten. Hell yeah. That's what I like to hear. He proposes a market socialism where you demolish markets. Every worker that works in a company gets a single share that can be traded. Pretty much working. Who does this? Varoufakis isn't proposing a new system at all. Oh, yeah. Okay, so if it's similar like Richard Wolff, yeah, what Richard Wolff essentially vets for is like really sort of like market socialism or like forms of democratic socialism. Yeah. I think that in some ways, guys, that's the future. Like, truly, it's so weird how people have a strong reaction against things like democratic socialism, and then they cite prior forms of socialism that have been tried numerous times, and they keep fucking failing. And then now we can't even truly try it anymore. Like, so there's approaches to how we implement socialism that are not concrete. They're not. Like, it's just pure cope to say that there is a clear approach. The Rainbow Six is when your work colleague says he doesn't have internet, but you see him playing on Discord. Oh, yeah. That game makes me growl, bro. Yeah, dude, I can imagine. I can't believe you still play it, dude. It's still a really fun game. You have been grinding that for fucking ages. What is ideology and political economy? So political economy is sort of how it's the larger intersection of economics and politics as a whole. I use the political economy in a sense where people can explain like corruption in government, where it's in capitalist favors to essentially buy out the government, and they do this. This is totally true. The political economy, Marx essentially developed a lot of the theoretical grounding of the concept of the political economy. But I was kind of comparing it and talking about both. Ideology is sort of the ideological apparatus that stems from the political economy. What's been your favorite video you have made so far? Good question. Good question. That's a good question. I don't know. Let me go check. I sometimes forget even the videos that I have made. Let me go check my let's see. Okay. My favorite videos. I want to say one of my favorite videos, guys, was Beginnings of Revolutionary Theory with Rousseau going into detail about some of the social contract, later Enlightenment thought to early Marx, and the beginning of materialism. I think that was probably my favorite. But I like, or Martin Luther King, postmodern revisionism and hyperreality. I quite like that one as well. Yeah, that's a hard one, but I would say those. I think those are some of the more unique ones. And naturally, unique videos don't do well, guys. That's just how it always goes on YouTube. You make really specifically unique videos, it won't go well. They don't get very good views. It's just because the algorithm doesn't account for stuff like that. It's all name. It's all flash. It's all it is. Paul Mason's post-capitalism. I have not. A lot what you're saying right now. The material conditions will evolve until capitalist logic becomes obsolete in a lot of places. I have not, but I truly reached. That's. And I'm not alone in that. I think that's a pretty common conclusion to come to when you're being honest. You're being intellectually honest. It may not be exactly it, but I think truly that we can be a little bit too ideological in our approach, and we can have some weird form of subconscious cope. And for a lot of people, ideology does that very well. Epoch, where do you think memes fall in the system of objects? Oh God, nowadays, system of objects? Well, memes have fallen apart through past couple of years. Memes suck now, right? 2018 was like the last year of like good memes. Ever since then, they've sucked. Memes aren't very good anymore, but memes are important in some ways, yeah. The system of objects. Well, Baudrillard talks about the system of objects as far as like interior design, furniture, advertising, credit, models and series. Probably models and series, right? There's new memes being created all the time, stuff like that, yeah. Models and series. True revolutionary song in celebration of his liberty. If socialism has supposedly failed in Central Asia, Latin America, Africa, why would any non-socialist even contemplate a system where it say it's failed? Wait, I think I'm kind of confused by the question. If socialism has supposedly failed in Central Asia, Latin America, Africa, and Eastern Europe, why would any non-socialist even contemplate a system where its adherents say it's always failed? I'm kind of confused. Wait, because socialism... I'm so confused. Brett, good answer. Yeah, I thought about that one a little bit. Yeah. Falls within the series and models framework that Baudrillard laid out. Why would they think about socialism if they don't like it? Well, I think most leftists like socialism. I think that's the point, is that we care. I think most people fundamentally do care about a system past capitalism in a socialist context, right? Workers' emancipation. I think everyone deeply cares about that. Prior forms of state, they haven't. I mean, what do you mean? I mean, like, yeah, there was successful revolutions, but obviously the systems fell apart. And in some ways, a lot of people get offended by saying that, right? And so a conclusion to come to is that, well, the systems were insufficient, and they were, right? Some people get really offended by that, and I understand the knee-jerk reaction, but saying that the systems didn't fail and they've essentially accumulated into a new system of like global capitalism, it's kind of just cope. Is just saying, why would people even consider a system whose whose supports say it's always failed. Oh, like in an ironic context. Yeah, I mean, well, well, it's not that like it's not that like so it's not like socialism's failed per se. There's so many different forms of socialism, right? Like that's another thing too. Like socialism is an incredibly broad word. That there's a lot of different socialisms and attempts at socialisms, right? I'll try to be more clear. Yeah, no problem, Steven. Sorry. If anything, that could be my fault. J-Man, sativa or indica? Indica. I get fucking paranoid on sativa. Let's say that's true. If that's the case, if it has failed in different continents over a century, how can you sell it to the public? No, true. I mean, that's a problem, right? I think that's a big problem. That's a big ideological marking of socialism, is that to a lot of people, that matter of fact, that is the reason why people are like capitalist, right? They say, well, it just simply won't work, right? Elaine Badiou, Zizek have both talked about like the function of current ideology isn't to say that capitalism's great and create a realm of false consciousness where it's selling the merits of capitalism. Most people don't like capitalism. Truly, like a lot of people truly don't really like capitalism, but they're worried socialism just won't work. I mean, that's a problem. It's a very good question. That's a good question. I don't have the answer. It's an ideological question, right? Northern European socialism is working fine. No. Yeah, well, so Northern European socialism, I don't know if that's really socialism. There's obviously the debate whether that's democratic socialism or social democracy. I would consider Scandinavia fairly robust social democracies. I think that's probably just the best way to describe them, right? I wouldn't consider, because again, any socialism, I think this is the maybe the baseline of socialism, is where workers fundamentally control production. And that doesn't happen in Scandinavia, right? There's union representation, very good union representation, but still a corporate. Sorry, it's still sort of like a corporate system. Social democracy is. It's the problem with social democracy in a lot of ways. But yeah, no, I mean, social democracy works so much better than our current capitalism for sure. There's some, I actually have a book here. It's called, I have yet to read it. It's called Socialism or Extinction. I think a big part of the book goes into detail about, I have yet to read it, but I hear it's very good. It goes into detail about some of the insufficiencies of social democracy and how we can't really afford social democracy either. Like, we're getting to the point where there's going to be a hyperinflation. There's going to be global hyperinflation, stuff like that. So I don't know. I've yet to read it. I can't comment too much on that, but I'm curious to. There's a lot. There's a lot of Marxist arguments against social democracy in a lot of ways. Partly, if many companies are state companies, is more or less the case. Yeah, in some ways, you can maybe. Yeah. Certainly, the line between social democracy and democratic socialism can be a little bit blurry. Dialectical Vegan Ego is a really good book. The Finnish are definitely not socialists. They massacred their communists during the Civil War. Well, so yeah. Well, yeah. That's again, they're capitalist countries. I only boof salvia these days. Guys, I got laced with salvia when I was 15 years old. No, I was 14. Let that sink in, guys. 14-year-old Epoch philosophy got laced with salvia. It was terrifying. Good thing it only lasted like 5 minutes and it wasn't much. Social Democrats seem to be the best managers of capitalism. Well, so actually, that's kind of changed, right? If anything, it's like, whatever you want. What would China be called, guys? What is that? Like top-down market, like centralized capitalist, like China? If anything, China is like amazing at capitalism, right? But yeah, social democrats are very good managers of capitalism. It's totally true. It's so true. So social democrats are very good at managing capitalism, right? Yeah, Salvia's fucking terrible, dude. At least from what I remember it. I know it wasn't like, I know there's like different like intensities, and the dude who laced me, it was an old fucking neighborhood friend, and he was laughing his ass off. Guys, I was 14 fucking years old. I had no idea what was happening to me. I thought I was dying. He laughed. He's like, "You'll be fine, bro. You'll be fine." He said, he's like, it's low dose. I'm like, what the fuck what just happened? He's like, oh, it's called salvia. It's a plant. I promise you'll be fine. And I remember thinking, I was like, dude, this is lying. I'm gonna end up dying. And it went away in 5 minutes, but it was very weird. Just like, I couldn't see shit, and it was just it was bad. It was bad. Yeah, China's basically just authoritarian social democracy. Yeah, I consider that. That's true. Although the democracy part, sorry, might be a little bit antithetical. It is insane. There is a lot of insane fucking Marxist hate towards social democracy. It's stupid. 5 minutes is an eternity when you're tripping. It absolutely is. Social authoritarianism. That's a good way to put it. It is. There's a lot of Marxists, and it's stupid. It's fucking, guys, it's so dumb to say that social democracy is inherently reactionary or right wing. No, it's not. It's stupid. It's fucking dumb. Don't say that shit. It's just completely incorrect. We can talk about the issues of social democracy. Well, we fucking should talk about the issues of social democracy. But to say that it's some like right wing fucking system or some evil system, fuck off. Fuck right off. Revolution overthrows capitalism. Those Nordic states would quickly cease to be Socdems. Huh. I feel like Zizek always says that at times. Maybe I'm wrong. Zizek says, oh, as a part of the dialectical process? Yeah. I think in some ways, so kind of, although there's a little bit of arguments to be made against that, right? Like, the world was, after post-World War II, the world was, in a lot of ways, more socially democratic than it is now, right? Neoliberalism still popped up after social democracy, yeah? So you're telling me the Nords of Skyrim picked up social democracy? Yeah, actually, quite literally. Yep. It was the Nordic people. They adopted social democracy. Yeah, I've seen Marxists say social democracy is a means of placating the social working class to stop revolution from happening. Well, I mean, that sort of is the case. In a lot of ways, that's true. That doesn't mean it's a reactionary or evil system, right? But yeah, in a lot of ways, but then also too, there's an opposite end of that spectrum, guys, is it's arguable that social democracy is impossible. We can't have social democracy without like revolutionary attempts, right? So a lot of Scandinavian guys, all of Scandinavia, Finland, Sweden, and Norway went through massive sort of revolutionary turning points throughout their country's history, and that's how sort of social democracy was created. Same with the United States in some ways. We got FDR because there was worker strikes all the time. So in some ways, social democracy itself is a reaction to revolution, right? In Germany, the SPD, the Social Democratic Party that exists today, have a real bad image for the left. Not only, I know, yeah, for sure. Which Elder Scrolls race would be Marxist if the Nords are sock dems? Oh God, who are the people that get? Okay, I know part of Skyrim. This is funny. We're talking about Elder Scrolls. Okay. It's not the fucking it's not Cyrodiil or whatever the fucking central place, and the reptile people get picked on a lot in Skyrim, right? There's a lot of like racism that happens in Skyrim because of that. But yeah, Nords are very racist in Skyrim. Argonians, that's right. It would be the Argonians, maybe. I don't know. At least it appears China attempts to help their people much more, unlike America. Well, not really. I mean, kind of, but it just depends. Yeah, no, I mean, in some ways, absolutely, right? Yeah, in some ways, it's absolutely true. And then in other ways, China allows international capital to flow within their country, and then corporations can set up shop, and China essentially allows a world where people can work like 15 hours, like they work insane hours, they get exploited to no end. Yeah. Whether people, well, yeah, but it's not as simple. It's not as simple as like China good, US bad. It's not. I'm sorry. I wish it was, but it's not. Yeah, no, there's absolutely, China does things a lot better than the United States in so many ways. I mean, the pandemic was really good evidence of that. Their healthcare is so much better. But they still have massive fucking problems. I mean, Chinese workers are not in a good state. It's bad. It's not good. That this is phased towards socialism. Yeah, I hear that as well. Look, maybe. I just don't. I just don't know. It's hard to justify the sheer amount of exploitation that happens in China, regardless, right? Wait. Good they should? Wait. Good they should exploit their workers? What the fuck? Anyways, have you read Freud's Reflections on War and Death? I have not. It's basically everything all post-war philosophers, capitals. Okay. Oh, interesting. I have not. China is doing more for South Africa's COVID pandemic than... Oh, well, yeah, absolutely. I'm sure. Yeah, and I mean, there's prison labor. The Uyghur situation's in bad in China, guys, and the Uyghur situation is a real fucking thing. It's not a CIA fucking planted story. It's just it's not. There's too many independent sources on this. It's just not true. Yeah, China absolutely uses prison labor. There's sweatshops and terrible working conditions for all kinds of Chinese citizens. It's hard to, even though it's a stage in socialism, I hate that. Talk about ideology, right? We can't justify stuff like that. If there is an ideological tonality of the Communist Party for a future where China can because I think the trajectory that China wants to take is they want to control capitalism and then dissolve it. And if that's the case, yeah, I mean that's good. Like I'm happy that's the long-term strategy. It doesn't matter. It's again hard to justify stuff like that for ideology as for a larger ideology. Yeah, it's hard to, again, it's just hard to justify that sheer amount of exploitation. The United States absolutely is terrible and fucking like in all ways almost, but yeah. Have you read Nick Land, Neo-Reactionary, or about unconditional accelerationism? If you have, what should the socialist reply to that be? I have not, so I am not able to reply. Question, should centrally planned economy where companies are governed, controlled, and there is no inner firm direct democracy? Centrally planned economy where companies are government controlled and there is no inner firm direct democracy? But workers control it? Yeah, it'd probably be, if I'm understanding that correctly, it'd probably be socialist to some degree, right? Like co-ops themselves seem to be pretty inherently socialist, right? And that's good. But there are also real Islamicist movements in Xinjiang who want to create an independent Islamicist nation. Yeah, but it doesn't matter. You can't justify throwing tons of people into prison, into prison camps. What the fuck? Come on now. That's not. No way. We can't justify that. Vosh shit? Me? Wait, it's Vosh shit to say that China exploits their workers and that there is an actual, like, there's the prison labor situation with the Uyghurs is not good? What the fuck are you talking about? That's fucking so stupid. That's bad. All right, lunch over. Peace out. Hope you have an intellectual stream. Thanks, J-Man. I'll see you, dude. Workplace democracy as a solution to capitalism? What? What the fuck are you talking about? I never said that. Oh, are you talking about in chat, not me? I'm so confused. No, I mean, I don't think workplace democracy is like it is a solution to capitalism. It's a solution. It's not the total solution, maybe, right? Vosh shit. That's such a stupid thing to say, though. I'm sorry. I don't care what Vosh says. VDS Havers be like, the main argument I've seen from Marx is that China is wrong, but the genocide is cultural, not literal, and the numbers are exaggerated by CIA. Oh, I'm sure there's all kinds of fucking and it's extremely useful for the CIA and Western countries to talk about that, right? There's a light Cold War that absolutely is happening, and misinformation is going to spew from that, but it doesn't mean that's necessarily untrue. At this point, the amount of independent statements and sources is just really, it would be a miracle and a half to create a conspiracy like that. I feel like China is much more ruthless and exploitative of its workers in the US. So that might be hard to sort of to qualify, but in some ways, sure. I would say workers' conditions, though, guys, for a lot of workers, especially labor, it's worse in China in some ways, right? For sure. Whether it's like explicitly worse, I don't know. I don't know if I'd be willing to say that, but maybe not. But maybe. Thoughts on MMT, modern monetary theory? They seem to have answers to those asinine. Where will you get the money from? Yeah. So I still think. Okay. So in our current standing right now, MMT is great, right? It's a good idea. It's a good theory as to understand resources, right? I think that's because MMT still implies that resources is the base it's the base core of economics, and that our new abstract economics, fiat money, institutions like the Federal Reserve able to essentially create money supply, it creates an artificial abstraction where countries like us or China or larger countries that are huge, they can just pull out money from anywhere. We have the resources. The problem is you're still worried that there's issues with the global South. Countries, what about countries who don't have the fundamental resources? When they try to pull out money, there's inflation that goes up like crazy, right? So we saw that again with Venezuela. The oil markets tanked, and Maduro had to print, essentially the entire Venezuelan government had to print more money because oil markets failed, and then of course there were sanctions from the West. MMT addresses emancipatory concerns in Western countries, in contemporary countries, in post-industrial countries, but it doesn't address the concerns around the globe, right? Gotta go by, gotta wake up early to be alienated at my workplace. No problem, friend. Looking forward to the video, man. Yeah, thank you for hanging out. I appreciate you. A conspiracy similar to WMD in Iraq. But that's exactly the thing, though. Iraq was hardly a conspiracy. Everyone knew that was bullshit. There was like tons of people were pretty much sounding the whistle that that's bullshit. That was a bullshit narrative. No, it would be for at this point, with the amount of independent sources to actually come out with the Uyghur situation, that would be a fucking monumentally huge thing. I don't see that. It's just like saying North Korea is a secret paradise and they're actually democratic. That's another thing too. that North Korea is an actual true democracy and people have voting rights, and the workplace, working conditions in North Korea is great. It's not. People can still go to North Korea. People break the rules in North Korea and will go film stuff, and they come back and they show the conditions. They talk about people that they've talked to. No. It's stupid. It's pure fucking cope. And if it isn't, then there needs to be proof on the other end. There needs to be fundamental, concrete proof. And it needs to be proof that can actually completely reject some of the other individual claims from others. It's just, did you see that Israel is going in front of the, oh, wow. And that Germany and Hungary are backing Israel? Oh. Dude, yeah. Oh my God. I heard, did you guys hear about Nathan Robinson? I think the journalist, he got fired from The Guardian for talking about Israel. Like, it's insane. It's bad. Really, really bad. Yeah. Constrict them through sanctions? Absolutely. Absolutely, those are not exclusive things. Fuck yeah. North Korea absolutely is in a big way. The conditions of North Korea are absolutely because of the West, but it's not just because of the West. It's not purely just because of the West. It absolutely is lunatic shit, dude. Israel as a country is, I mean, it's crazy that, what is it? Netanyahu's son was talking about, what did he go on social media and said Hitler is misunderstood? I mean, it's just a parody of it. It's insane. I mean, capitalism and neoliberalism will descend into fascism. Won't work in that respect. That's Bill Joe. That's true. That's true in a lot of ways. We sort of have a coping mechanism to think that an accelerationist viewpoint will lead to fascism is not capitalism necessarily, right? Yeah, we have the idea that it'll lead to socialism. Who's to say that? No, absolutely not. It could lead into a worse form of fascism. Absolutely. I went to China. They had a World War II parade, and they shut down all industry for a month to make the sky blue, but I didn't know that at the time, and I thought I was being lied about the pollution. I'm confused. You went to, and they made the sky blue? And they shut down all industry for a month. And I thought I was being lied to about the pollution? Wait, I'm confused. Sorry. It's hard to get context from chat sometimes. Leftists should say Israel has free healthcare. It would sadly probably make right-wingers more antagonistic towards them mentioning Palestine, sadly. Yeah. Oh, all right. Acceleration is capitalism in some ways. Yeah, it's like, and the other thing, we're talking about revolution as well, guys. This is another massive problem with revolution on its own, is that is revolution truly a solution to capitalism in some ways? And in some ways it's not. It's sort of, it can be viewed as the opposite, right? Who is to say if we completely overthrew the U.S. government that it would be a socialist system that pops up afterwards? Probably not. If anything, I think right-wingers, there might be a little bit more internal organization that might end up dictating things in a post-U.S. world, right? I don't know. It's not to say that we shouldn't try or anything, but it is to say that we should look at it and its total possibilities, right? We hear that China is polluted, but they shut down the factories to make the sky. Yeah, well, I mean, China pollutes, but China also, as far as a government, China has done far more for climate change than I think pretty much any other government, right? China absolutely should wean itself off of fossil fuels faster than it does, but they are doing more than I think any other Western country. Is that correct as far as government goes? I think that's correct. Yeah. So I thought Western media was lying. Oh, gotcha. Gotcha. The capitalist institutions won't work if you just throw new people in. They only work at a world level because of the connections that people have. You will have to start from the ground up. Yeah, I mean, in many ways, right? It's sort of a international problem. And I mean, this is something that, even Marx talks about explicitly as well. They did it for the Olympics, I think, back in 2008. Ah, gotcha. Oh, to make the sky. Oh, God, that's depressing. But yeah, no, I mean, China's an absolutely polluted fucking country, really, really badly. Matter of fact, I think pollution kills a shit ton of Chinese citizens. Yeah, so that sucks. I'm sure that's. I don't know what the numbers are now, but I know it's quite high, and I think parts of the United States the same way. Lived in China for a year yourself. Interesting. It would be interesting to go to China, honestly. It'd be very interesting. Are you looking for the new season of Blowback Pod? It's on Cuba/Fidel. No, I haven't. I haven't. I actually don't know who that is. I don't listen to a lot of podcasts, or I don't consume a lot of. Yeah, I guess it's interesting. I make videos on this shit. I don't even watch that much YouTube on these topics, or listen to many podcasts as much. Real world superpower when you got actual weather as a control superpower. Does anyone know the percentage that China produces for Western consumption? I don't know. I mean, it's huge. This is the other thing. The argument that that China keeps the United States at bay. It keeps imperial powers at bay, kind of. In some contexts, it does, but also in other contexts, China reinforces the United States so hard. Like again, international corporations, U.S. corporations, Western corporations can go in and exploit the fuck out of Chinese workers. So in that sense, China facilitates a sort of imperial tonality to the United States, right? They support capitalism in many contexts. Microphone's little thing's a little fucked up. But just look up U.S. China exports data, and there's plenty of sources. Yeah, I'm sure. I haven't looked at the actual numbers themselves. I think Blowback was one of the best podcasts. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Okay. Is it about like just foreign policy and stuff? Yeah, exactly. One of the reasons why China, absolutely, yeah, China wouldn't be where it was at unless the United States, unless like global trade itself, essentially. They leverage their internal health in order to degrade the West spiritually with all the garbage they produce. That's funny. Here's your commodities, motherfuckers. What's really interesting is to look at the imports from Africa that China receives. Interesting. I know investment in Africa is big. In China, I know that is their next super project, for sure. Yeah, it was in the Who's. Interesting. Okay, that's really cool. I'll have to. There's a lot of good content out there that I don't have the time right now. It's really weird. So beforehand, I would often go to, I would listen to some podcast and more content when I was at like on campus, but because everything's online, that I'm taking all online classes this semester. It's my last one. I don't walk between classes, or I don't listen to the stuff on the drive there. So in some ways, I'm not able to listen to as many podcasts. It kind of sucks. Instead, I'm at home. Basically, workers got some right in the West, so capitalists looked for other places where workers would. So yeah, that is global capitalism, my friend. All right. Interesting. I noticed whenever here, I'm going to turn this off. Interesting. I notice my camera, whenever I have a light pointing at the board, my camera autofocuses more towards it. So I'm going to have to fix that, I guess. Basically, yeah. So, guys, I think, what is it? When is the video premiere? I think was it 6 o'clock? I think that's when we're doing it. I think that's when we're doing the booth, you know? So I'm looking forward to that, but, China has moved substantially to a lot towards domestic consumption and service sector. People tend to have a dated view on this. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's definitely, that seems to be the case for sure. You know, it's like, if potentially what could happen, because I think the current theory goes, is at least the goal, according to Xi Jinping, is that the goal is to essentially dominate world capitalism, to become the strongest capitalist, and then from there destroy the global order of capitalism and move to like global socialism. If that's the case, that could be cool. That might be good. I hope that would probably be the development. It wouldn't surprise me, but you know, I don't know. Like, if there is a global order that large, right? Will we potentially move towards worker emancipation? I don't know. You know? I don't know. I don't know if I trust that, right? The amount of yeah, sure, but I feel a majority of the 30 series NVIDIAs go to the West. I'm sure. That is that they're not even making them. Holy fuck. You can't even buy a 30. Guys, I have a 3090 and it was pure luck. Guys, I got a 3090 at like $100 above MSRP. It was just pure luck. Stroke, it's very it is very naive to believe that. Yeah, I truly, in some ways, absolutely, right? Like I'm kind of in the same socialism with China. Isn't that funny? Socialism with Chinese characteristics. It's such a terrible fucking sort of like argument. Yeah. It seems like ideological cope for sure. I don't know. I don't. Again, the system past capitalism is going to be extremely, extremely sticky. It is going to be something that I don't even know if we even have the correct idea of what it may even look like, right? Like, do we even know whether, yeah, capitalism with Asian values, according to Zizek? I mean, in so many ways. Well, yeah, it's not even. I don't even argue with people who say China is just purely socialist. I don't. I just don't. It's such a fucking stupid. It's just beyond wrong. China being the best manager of capitalism is true. Absolutely. Okay. No, I think there's a lot of discussion to be had on sort of coping mechanisms. God damn, I mean, the world's rough, dude. You know? It's rough, you know, and it's easy to jump to easy conclusions and easy potential solutions that ironically exist as idealisms, right? What are your opinions on gun laws and leftists propagating arming yourself? Interesting. No, I mean, that's a good question. So I think we have talked about this a little bit before, but I'm totally cool talking about it again. So my position on gun rights is essentially like, look, we got to follow the data. There's a lot of data on the data says with guns, if we follow statistics, it says this: less guns per capita, less gun deaths per capita across the board. So what do you do with that information? There's the question. I think we should follow the path of least resistance, and the way we do that is you would just get as many guns out of people's hands as fucking possible, but you do it in a certain way. I would in the way that I would probably do it, and this is the big debate. Look, if you live in rural areas, I don't think anyone should have semi-automatic weapons at all. No one. And I know people will say, Marxists will say, no, the bourgeoisie should always be armed. Marx said this. I don't give a fuck what Marx said. I don't give a fuck. That's not an argument. That is a terrible fucking argument. We should be talking about the merits of right now and policy right now. If the bourgeoisie being armed means that people still have access to semi-automatic weapons and can gun down people all the time, fuck no, that's bullshit. Fuck that. And aside from that, the idea that you can quote-unquote stop tyranny, what the fuck's your AR-15 going to do against an M1 Abrams tank? What's it going to do? It's not going to do anything. If there was going to be a quote-unquote revolution, you're going to have to outsource guns already. You're going to have to outsource weaponry as it is. Your existing weaponry that exists even within its legal framework is totally insufficient at even getting close to touching the U.S. military. It's impossible. It's not. Fuck off. What a dumb statement. So I think that we should ban all semi-automatic weapons. Ban them completely. And then we should just, from there, can they have bolt-action rifles? Can they have shotguns? Sure. Make the obtaining them much more difficult. Licensing much more strict, for sure. Maybe we can talk about obtaining weapons like bolt-action rifles in a rural sense. Maybe we can make individual laws around that, right? But one thing is for sure, semi-automatic rifles, or semi-automatic weapons, I'm talking handguns and rifles, should be banned. I don't think you should be able to get them. Yeah, guns are nothing to automated drones. So, and I have, it's interesting. I have a semi-automatic rifle. It's a little tiny one, but I mean, clearly this gun's been used in a lot. I have a Ruger 1022. It's a semi-automatic rifle. It should be illegal. I have it. It's the only weapon that I own, but I do have a 1022. But I don't think that thing should be legal. I don't. You could kill a lot of people really fast with that thing. Yeah, that's true as well. I had to write. I wrote papers about gun policy. Yeah, suicides go up. There's a lot of things that go up. Truly, and guys, the highest gun deaths per capita. People think it's like going to be like like densely populated areas are going to have the worst gun deaths, like Chicago or New York or LA. No, it's not. It's actually Alaska is the highest per capita rate. So, for example, in Europe as well. What's the country with the most gun deaths per capita? I think in like Western Europe. It's Switzerland. Does Switzerland really have a gun problem per se? Not really. No. But what that data tells you is that where there are more guns per capita, more gun deaths happen. It's actually a pretty simple formula. I know. There's a couple questions that while I was talking, I know you have a philosophy background. I'm curious what your thoughts are on how leftists should act in a capitalist system. Are we obligated to do anything? I mean, that's a really good question. I think so. I think that I think there is individual obligation to some extent. We can overextend that obligation. Maybe that's a very broad question. I could go into detail about that later, but. Do we have a responsibility? Yeah, sure. I think so. What that responsibility is, I'm not exactly sure. I think we have electoral responsibility for living in a sort of democratic system that has some forms of democracy, not much. But yeah, I mean, that depends. It's very tough. That's very tough to answer. I wouldn't be able to answer that all right here. Maybe ask me that at the beginning of a stream sometime. We can go talk about that more. I apologize. We're going through so much shit. But that's a really good question that I would love to bring up again. Where are the dudes who just as proficient with bolt action and shotguns? We should definitely check out community safety education taken into consideration. Absolutely. But there are dudes who are just as proficient with bolt action shotguns. Dude, I'm telling you, man, you cannot kill as many people with a semi-automatic. I've shot many weapons. Guys, I grew up in a ruralish Missouri area. My entire family, I have like, yeah, no, I could kill so many more people with a semi-automatic weapon rather than a bolt action. You kill a lot of people with a bolt action. You can be pretty, yeah. Wait. It's not about defeating the military. A tank won't enforce tax codes. What? I mean, a tank quite literally does enforce our entire existing apparatus. Absolutely. And drones won't manage infrastructure. What the fuck are you? That's not. The military isn't about managing infrastructure. That's government per se. People outnumber boots on the ground. And anyways, the U.S. lost in Vietnam. That's not an argument at all. That's absolutely not an argument. It's totally, completely different. Saying that the fact that we lost the Vietnam War means that we would lose a civil war, or that we could beat the United States in a civil war immediately. That's pretty fucking optimistic. That you can't. Maybe we can, but that's not. You can't use that as evidence. This guy's pretty funny. He wants the proletariat to be unarmed. What the fuck are you talking about? I don't care about people being unarmed. I think that we should have certain weapons out of people's hands. More people attempt suicide when gun ownership is legal because people don't fear their. Yeah, I would argue a tank very much enforces. Yeah, tanks do enforce. That's sort of the point. You attack the infrastructure, pull a Trotsky. The fuck are you talking about? We're not talking about Trotsky. What? The U.S. would 1,000% bomb one of their own cities. Oh fuck yeah! No. Like. The idea, look, what do you think that people should just have access to semi-automatic weapons as to potentially revolt as a large-scale revolution? If you wanted an actual concrete revolution to topple the U.S. government, you would actually need to outsource weapons as it is. You can't buy artillery guns here. You would need some sort of external arming. Now, if that actually happened, would China help out? Yeah, probably. I think China would absolutely arm people if they could. But currently, the current statistics say that you get those guns out of people's hands, less people die. And should less people die, if that's what we should do with our immediate policy? Absolutely. Absolutely. I wasn't saying that we can easily win against the army, but that people should be armed. But that's way different. That's way different than concrete gun policy, right? Whether people should be armed or not isn't necessarily the question. It's the question of what should people be armed with, right? Like gun ownership isn't necessarily a problem, right, on its own. I think a lot of people admit this, right? But that gun ownership per capita is a problem to an extent. So what we can do with that is we can make, quote unquote, we can make a more robust gun policy position in the United States. But obviously that's not happening. And the gun issue in the United States, too, we were just talking about ideology and the political economy. The political economy absolutely dictates a lot of our gun policy. And it's the military-industrial complex. You don't know what you're talking about. It's funny. You haven't been able to make an art. You pull a Trotsky. You attack the infrastructure, dude. What are you talking? You're not even making an. What? You don't know what you're talking. Are you just gonna make claims and not back them up? I don't even. If less people die, yeah, that's my concern. Absolutely. If less people die due to gun violence, is your main determinant of success for gun policy? Yeah. What are you talking about? If for immediate domestic gun policy, if less people die due to gun violence, yeah, what the fuck else? Like, what else are you going to use as a metric? I'm willing to endure the negative sides of relaxed gun laws for the benefit of having guns personally and ideologically. Well, that's a rough thing to tackle with, right? Gun deaths in the United States are very high out of all current countries are extremely high. What do you mean? But what you're able to endure is so different than what other people are going to be able to endure and what have to endure, right? Where do you live? Do you live in rural America? Are you a student who could potentially be killed in a school? In theory, you can buy artillery for personal use in Sweden, but you have to convince the authorities it's for hunting or sports. Good luck. In regard to my original comment, I mean, ultimately the government needs boots on the ground to run the country. Well, sure, but not real. Well, but the military doesn't run the country. Drones will win, but they end up ruling over rubble. What? People will always outnumber soldiers? It doesn't matter. I mean, like, the amount of military bases, no, I mean, the amount of immediate firepower the US government has, soldiers don't govern the country. The only useful violence for leftists right now is wildcat strike, the revitalization. Yeah, strikes and unions are arguably some of the most efficient ones too, even according to data as well. Gun density per capita. It's some of the highest. They also have some of the highest gun deaths per capita in Western Europe as well. What do you think about the argument that having weapons possesses a threat of revolt and therefore public opinions? I don't think that so you're saying that the presence of guns will change the ideology as far as like tyranny or some sort of top-down authoritarian structure? I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, if that's true, the amount of guns in the United States, that would probably already show itself as something that's concretely true. No, it's not good enough to say, guys, it's just not good enough to say that Marx said the bourgeois or the proletariat should be armed, therefore that is true. That's not good enough. That's actually just not, that's logically fallacious. Someone X said that the proletariat should be armed, thus they should be armed. If that is your core argument, that's complete, just that's religious bullshit. That's pure fucking religion. Yeah, it's a lazy appeal to authority. Absolutely. This is, again, we're a continental philosophy and theory channel. Guys, analytical philosophy is very important. We should not be lazy with our thinking. So, and here's the thing, like, I don't have, quite literally, again, no matter what the gun laws are, if I'm able to have a weapon, I probably will have one personally. If there was, obviously, if they banned semi-automatic weapons and there was a buyback program, I would absolutely 100% do that. They can buy my semi-automatic rifle. I'm totally fine with that. And I'll probably just have a bolt action. But then again, too, guys, I've grown up and sort of, you know, like my dad hunts religiously. On my mom's side of the family, they all hunt. My mom grew up in a very rural area. I grew up at my grandparents' house. I would shoot guns quite often. I was like really young and I would do that. I probably was, dude, I actually can't believe how unsafe my family was with guns when I was little. It's actually fucking ridiculous, but my bad. I'm not the most articulate. No, it's okay. I know the military doesn't run the country. That's not what I meant. Tanks won't enforce taxes, and armed populace ungovernable regardless. Well, but that's not true. Look, if you're saying that an armed population will essentially keep tyrannical or authoritarian or capitalist powers at bay, that's fundamentally not true, my friend. Like, look at the United States. We have an incredibly armed population. We have an extremely armed population here in the United States. And we are an extremely authoritarian country. Dude, that's exactly, and Greg, that's, motherfuckers actually think they're going to overthrow the U.S. government by force when we can't even organize the service sector. This is another fundamental problem to make, that like we need to have the potential to overthrow the government or the proletariat should fundamentally be armed as to facilitate revolution. The proletariat is armed, guys. Conservative right-wingers who are typically vote conservative, who are Republicans, they're proletariat as well. The proletariat is already armed, right? And if anything, we have a massive gun problem in the United States. Why do you feel? Oh, okay. I think someone asked me that earlier. I can answer that. So honestly, just personal protection. That's it. I bought the gun when I was 18. I had a little bit more libertarian. I actually had a fairly libertarian stance on guns when I was about 18 years old. My immediate economic politics have always been very left, but I had a pretty libertarian stance on guns. I actually was like in favor of just people having guns in general. I didn't like regulation on guns, but obviously as time goes on and you have to contend with immediate data and policy analysis on gun control, yeah, I changed my views. So I still have that gun. Yeah. I actually, again, like I said, I actually quite like guns. One thing, if I have enough money, what I would like to do is I would like to collect old historical firearms. That would be really cool. But it doesn't make sense. I have yet to hear an actual concrete logical argument on the grounds of allowing semi-automatic weapons to people. That would help a lot. That would help in a lot of gun violence. Yeah, there's too much of an it's adventurous to say the least, for sure. So to me, suicide precedes danger of gun self. Sure, but the problem is guns absolutely do facilitate suicide to a larger degree, right? Personal protection, you would deny your fellow man his life? No. If people want to own a gun for personal protection, they absolutely should. They can. But if I was going to create a concrete policy, I would simply just outlaw semi-automatic weapons. Does that mean people can't buy firearms? No, absolutely not. They just have to buy a bolt action or a shotgun. In that sense, all the power to you. The fuck are you talking about? You're just straw manning. If you don't want to take my actual positions as their merit, you're going to get banned. That's the thing. Like if you're in chat, we can absolutely have an honest discussion. I'm more than happy to discuss policy, but if you're going to strawman my positions, you're going to get banned from this channel. I don't give a fuck. But yeah, feel free. We absolutely can talk about these things, and we can disagree. But I won't. No strawmans are just blatantly fallacious reasoning. Does semi-automatic weapons include Yeah, I would probably include handguns with that as well. Yeah. It wouldn't be good. It probably would not be good enough to ban just semi-automatic rifles for sure. Definitely not. If anything, handguns are actually much more dangerous in a lot of ways. That's anecdotal. But it isn't. Oh, no. That's not anecdotal. No. It's actually statistically true that suicide rates are higher among people with guns. And there's been research to show that suicidality goes up with gun owners as well. Patients will, but you see what you're saying? Patients will find a way to kill themselves if they truly want to, and it's an unfortunate truth. That's absolutely true, but that's not the point. That's actually not the point at all. That's absolutely true. You could and the same thing can be made. Hey, the same argument can be made against you're saying it's anecdotal regardless of statistics. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, well, and the same argument can be made about outlawing semi-automatic weapons, right? If you wanted a semi-automatic automatic weapon, you could go and buy one. Still, it'd be much more expensive and way more difficult. You really could, but the impetus wouldn't be as high. Not even close. It would be much more difficult. It's not a straw man. You're full of it. Well, that's okay. You're full of it. Now that's an ad hom. So goodbye. Get fucked. All right. Gone. See, this is, listen. listen. Yeah, I think I did it, Brett, but thank you. Listen, this is the actual look. That's kind of the good thing about YouTube. Listen, I am super lenient. I am so lenient about shit. I'm not going to take borderline abusive shit or just like blatant fallacious reasoning and straw mans. Like, I'm just not going to do that. That sucks. That sucks. It hurts discourse too. Let's be real. I guess IG deterring suicide is inherently good, even though people should be able to do what they want with their bodies. Yeah, I look like, and this is the thing where like medically induced suicide, right? People should have the right to end their life in a very humane way, right? I mean, it's actually really scary, right? Because we're all going to die, and we could be subjected to death in so many ways, guys. It's really scary to me that I don't have the choice to humanely end my life through like unless I go to another state. That sucks. That really sucks. That needs to happen though. Absolutely. I do think bodily autonomy is still very important. In that regard. Is violent revolution all that more likely than an electoral takeover? Can today socialism be achieved without a plurality of the population? I think a lot of like what we're seeing with like technology and automation, again, we were talking about this earlier, Stelios. I'm not sure, you may not have been here, but our new system, socialism, a system past capitalism, is going to probably happen in ways not through the typical Marxist-Leninist canon, or even like Marxist canon in general. It's going to be a lot more elusive, and it's going to be pretty technological. And in some ways, Zizek has written about sort of like quote-unquote private communism with the use of intellectual property being resistant. Commodification of newer technology is going to harm that technology immensely, to the point where it's going to like truly, if technological development is going to happen, it can't happen within a system of capitalism. There's a lot of fine details there that we can go over. I'd have to go reread through the book, but we were talking a little bit about that earlier. What book are you reading right now? I am reading, I'm rereading, going through the German ideology right now. Agreed. After just seeing my dad really... Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry, my friend. That's terrible. Yeah, I mean, that shit sucks. I mean, that really sucks, man. That's something that scares me too. If I'm like in a really bad state with cancer and I just don't want to deal with it, yeah, I mean... If I'm, it sucks. It's a scary thing to think that you can't legally end your life in that way, and you might have to fucking... Like, a lot of people revert to fucking killing themselves by shooting themselves. That's so unfair to... In that, oh my god, it's terrible. MMIR. Yeah, you might be right. It's just that here in Ireland, gun laws are quite strict. Yeah. And although the law enforcement is largely disarmed, outside intervention will easily crush a socialist revolution. Well, yeah, like there's so many more concrete variables. We simplify, and it's easy to fetishize revolution, right? To sort of worship it as this religious, like this necessary religious thing, right? And I think that we're looking at that wrong, and that can be pretty harmful, right, to future emancipatory politics. And again, back to the actual gun policy debate, I think if we have immediate policy positions within bourgeoisie capitalism, within a terrible system, I still hold. I don't think we can. A lot of the arguments that I hear against just the gun control that I was talking about seems to be pretty ideological, and there's no concrete logical argument against it that I have heard. And in that sense, I think analytical philosophy is very important. Like we have to be concrete with our thinking still, very much so. Obtaining and distributing weapons is difficult. Already having them would lessen logistical issues. Yeah, I mean, sure, it absolutely would, like for a potential revolution. But is that worth tons of people dying due to gun violence? Is that worth it? Like, how can we say that? I can't. Not at all. People will be shot in schools. Well, thank God, in some ways, there's been a fucking pandemic and we haven't had one in a long time. People are being murdered all the fucking time. Not only that, people have they're able, a lot of people kill themselves with guns, dude, it's bad. It's absolutely to say gun violence it's totally accurate to say we have a gun pandemic in the US. Seth Johnson, have you ever read? I have not read Adolf's Tour read. I have not. A lot of people, you guys have asked if I've read, and I haven't. I'm sorry. But I am definitely, there's a lot of like smaller names that interest me a lot that I haven't been able to get to. But socialist healthcare is not socialism? But socialist healthcare is not socialism? I'm confused. The thing for me is I'm all for helping. I'm going back to your other comment, Farrell, just to see if there's some context. The thing is, for me, I am all for helping people, and we should, but I don't consider like UBI or leftisms, just policies. Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah, there's nothing like inherently like like there's not. Yeah, I would agree with that. Well, maybe we're running into like a language barrier. Do I consider things like guaranteed healthcare for everyone socialist? Actually, yeah, like it's still socialist, but it doesn't mean that form that like socialist ideal can't be present in capitalism, which it clearly is. The government will never make euthanasia for suicidal people legal. Oh God, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's a waste of all the money in government. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, there's probably that is a question of the political economy in some ways, for sure. The media focuses on school shootings, but I was shocked to see how many. Yeah, right. So like school shootings actually isn't even the biggest thing, right? I just brought that up maybe as an appeal to emotion because it's a more present, like brutal example. But yeah, just in general, just gun crime, domestic violence with guns, children shooting their parents. That happens a lot, like on accident, like babies getting that's far less. That's far more rare. Children killing themselves with guns on accident, guys. Truly, again, and then this is, I was having a more like tried to talk more about the statistics, but anecdotally too, guys, people handle guns like shit in the U.S. I can imagine in Europe, it might not be true. I can imagine in Europe people just handle guns differently too. So, for example, from experience. And again, like I said earlier, I'm not basing my arguments off of anecdotal experience. I'm not at all. I'm just talking from experience. Something that kind of helped move my general emphasis, my emotional composition towards gun control a little bit, and took the statistics a little bit more seriously. Anyways, I grew up and goddamn, man, if I had a child and he was in the environment and shooting guns the same way that my older brother is 9 years older than me, and I was like fucking 9 or 10 years old shooting like shotguns in the most unsafe way at my grandparents' house. Like I was so unsafe with weapons. It's actually terrifying now that I think about it. I cannot believe. And my mom was just in the house. My grandparents, just shooting guns at their property was just like, did it all the time. Didn't give a fuck. People did it all the time. We did it all the time. It was like no big deal. And then of course I had a friend who hunted a lot as well. Dude, his dad, they had a shit ton of guns. And if they got a new one, he would be like, hey dude, look at this new gun that we got. The entire gun safe unlocked. Everything unlocked. Dude, he would unbolt, check the bolt. There would be a round. Guys, there would be a fucking round in the gun. Like, I truly mind-blowing. A ton of people do not. It's crazy how, like, lax people take guns in the U.S. It's crazy. Crazy shit. Luckily, my dad is an avid hunter. He owns quite a few firearms. My dad is the opposite of lax with guns. My dad's very good about gun safety. Thank God. My dad is one of the most responsible people when it comes to gun stuff. Genuinely, I'm happy to say that, because it freaks me out that tons of people aren't. But it's like a cultural thing in some ways, right? Guns are, a lot of Americans don't take guns that seriously. It's kind of crazy. Okay. Who is more analytical and who is more continental of Trump and Biden? Oh God. Well, definitely Trump is more, I mean, if you even want to say that, continental, like, right? Biden does more things according to, that's such a hard question to answer though, Who? Let's see. You're worth more than a salary increase you deserve that you won't have. To overcome gun pandemic, you must first overcome gun love, which is a very U.S. thing and a weapons industry influence. Sure. Again, the political economy reinforces ideology, right? There is a sort of ideological tonality towards firearms in the U.S. One of my favorite skateboard graphics is where a mother and father are walking into their house to. Yeah, dude, it's truly and I've actually had conversations with and I totally get this. A lot of Europeans, and it doesn't help that we have fucking channels like PragerU or some shit, but there are some Europeans that have a sort of like a fantasy like idea about how guns, like the freedom to buy guns. Like I could say, like, guys, if I was born in Europe, I see the appeal. They're like, oh wow, well they can just go and buy a gun. That's actually kind of cool, right? Like I get that. But when you're here and you look at it critically, there's a lot of really fucking scary shit. Like truly, yeah. People lost their mind when Chomsky called Trump a political genius. Yeah. Trump is not a dumb politician by any means. Hell no. Europe is not more mature than the US. I'm in Ireland. We have a tiny far right. However, most of their ideas are are all US. I find that's got to be the case, right? Right-wing weird online ideology and conspiracy theories. That's an international thing at this point because of the internet, right? That's got to be true. 3D printed guns are scary. Absolutely. Yes. And in some ways it's more scary than like manufactured firearms, right? 3D guns can be very, very dangerous on their own. Like, for example, when you shoot guns, you should have eye protection just in general. Guns will jam and then you'll have they'll discharge. There'll be like a cartridge left in a barrel and the gun will explode. Like, truly, guns are just they're pretty dangerous things. That's rare typically if you take care of your guns, but you know. Yeah, the fact that you can buy assault rifles in regular stores is fucking terrifying. Absolutely. Like it's a terrible idea. Like, truly. Kill what you eat and whatever. Yeah, but we all go to grocery stores. Absolutely. No, so again, like I said, guys, my dad is like, most of the meat my dad consumes is from hunting. My dad kills like 2 or 3 deer every season. And it's nice. So if I ever lived on land, I'd absolutely hunt 150%. It's a more ethical way to consume meat for sure. Absolutely. I don't find anything really unethical about hunting. It would really suck to nick a deer or nick an animal and them run off and not be. That would really suck. I think that's happened to my dad before. That would kind of break my heart. Because killing things is not fun, like in any context at all. It can be a lot. There's a lot of psychopathic people I know who I grew up in a ruralish part of Missouri. They'd go hunting, and the idea that they would nick an animal and they'd run off, it just didn't even bother them. Like, hunting to them was not that serious. That's a big deal to me, man. Killing an animal's a big fucking deal, and you're kind of a psychopath if you don't treat it like it, you know? But nonetheless, hunting is far more ethical than a lot of the hugely cruel practices we have in the US. Okay. Imagine we all carried fucking bombs. Yeah, it would suck. Yeah. Is basically American Republicans by now. Oh no, that sucks. Trophy hunting absolutely is disturbing. That is just monumentally disturbing. Absolutely. Trophy hunting is, and luckily, I will say this. Luckily, I think most hunters that I know in America actually don't like trophy hunting. I think. Absolutely fucking disturbing shit, though. Some political parties in the far right in Europe won't be afraid to have welfare policies. Right, correct. However, the less polished boots on the ground are mostly all screaming about high taxes. Oh, interesting. Interesting development too, right? Where the one thing that saved Europe was the fact that conservative parties sort of they took popular policies in, like healthcare, certain education funding and stuff like that, where the U.S. didn't. The U.S. The right in the United States never did that, but in Europe they stayed relevant because of that. Interesting. Guys, I am going to go pee. I will be right back. I will continue streaming. I'm having a good time, so I will be right back. Like 2 seconds. All right. Let's see. Whale hunting is fucking awful too. Absolutely. So I would hope that Germany has a stronger anti-fascist movement in the U.S. That'd be very scary if it didn't. Yeah. Right-wingers seem to try to avoid talking about stuff like wages, unions, and equality. All they do is culture war, and it works. Interesting. That's fairly true. Yeah, I think I saw a video on the Faroe Islands with whale hunting, and they were essentially there was a cultural argument to say that, oh, well, they've done it forever, thus they should do that. It was pretty brutal practices. I mean, if you have conservative crypto-fascists who feed you as a senator as a dog. Yeah. Greg Baker, that's a good question. Are there any ethical reasons not to be vegan or vegetarian? Well, so, well, that's a kind of a broad question. So like, if we're gonna talk about veganism absolutely is is a moral thing, right, on its own. I was a vegan for a year, a little over a year, and but there's a problem with the argument that a lot of vegans produce is that it's an argument of it's an individual argument, right, where they put the responsibility, a lot of vegans put the moral responsibility on individuals and not corporations and industry, right? So if we want to create a more moral base, a more moral consumption of food in the United States, it's going to have to happen from the top down. It's going to have to happen on industry wide levels. An individual approach to this just won't work. But yeah, like on its own, like veganism's a very moral way to live, for sure. Absolutely. Definitely. I think buying, especially whenever it comes to leather, buying secondhanded is always good. Buying clothes secondhanded is just better too. I eat meat, by the way. Yeah, I eat meat. Well, yeah, I eat meat all the time. I feel much better when I eat meat compared to, again, I was vegan for over a year. And I feel much better than I used to. It's not to say, I probably it's harder to eat better sometimes when you're vegan. So, for example, if you're vegan, you have to eat a lot of fresh food. And just being a busy person, that can be a little bit difficult. I can eat more, like, I can eat a little bit better. So a lot of ready to eat vegan foods are like way more processed. Like, as a meat eater, you eat plenty of processed food, but like way more processed. And I felt like shit a lot of the times. It's really hard. It can be a little bit difficult, but it's not like a lot of vegan food is great, right? But it's one of those things. I definitely felt a lot better. And there's a lot of evidence that I saw online. I've seen quite a bit of evidence to show that your genealogy and your ancestry is actually pretty indicative on how you feel in certain foods. I'm like literally like all Northern European, and it would make a little bit of sense that like eating meat doesn't really bother me. Sometimes eating meat can make people feel like shit sometimes. A lot of people feel much better when they eat less meat. I'm a weird motherfucker. It's the opposite. The more meat that I eat, typically the better. It's truly strange. My girlfriend doesn't quite feel that way, but my girlfriend's very Native American as well. Although a lot of I don't know. I know that typically a lot of Mediterranean people, and there's evidence to show that like Asian people, they react to food much differently than Europeans. Anyways, I'm not a food scientist, so I don't know for sure, but that's some of the research that I've seen. I do eat eggs and cheese. I live in rural Texas and have chickens, 2 cows. That's awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, Linux, I hate that so much about vegans. Yeah, it's just a really bad way to approach it, right? And it sucks. I kind of consider it a tragedy because veganism's incredibly moral, right? Veganism's great. Like, guys, if you're a vegan, you're doing something well. It's not to say that you're absolved of all moral wrongdoing, right? Like, agriculture in general, like smaller animals die all the fucking time. What was it like for every like two square miles of farm fields, they kill like X amount of rabbits and like rodents and shit like that. Like there's still animal consumption by proxy of agriculture, right? Or animal harm. So it's that, but is it, if we can take a more moral approach, yeah, like veganism is a very moral way to live compared to how most people do, but that's good, but it's a terrible thing to make the argument and put that on the raw individual. It's terrible, it's stupid, it's just so ineffective. And there's a lot of anti-political tonality to veganism that I hate. Veganism should be something inherently political. Is narrowing the public debate. Interesting. Yeah, you feel terrible when I eat. It's really weird. So yeah, no, it's super strange, guys. It's really weird. The more I'm the opposite. So more meat that I typically eat, less processed grains, typically the better. I feel a lot of the times. But again, I don't know why. I kind of wish it wasn't that way in some ways, you know. Meat's expensive as fuck. And he's something about ending factory farming. I hope so. Like, factory farming's terrible. I think one of the things that would be really, really cool is lab-grown meat is fucking huge. Yeah, I mean, the meat industry, it's not even just animals, it's workers too. It's fucking terrible. Oh my God. Talk about one of the worst industries in the world. Right, Linux. Cory Booker was grown in a secret government lab. Yes, it's probably true. Yeah, dairy industry is very unethical as well. That's another weird thing, guys. I know this is a bigger thing than meat. Lactose intolerance, guys. I can consume dairy 24/7 and it does not bother me at all. Super strange. I feel grateful for that one. I'm happy. I have like no lactose intolerance whatsoever. Like truly. I'm kind of lucky. But yeah, that's a big problem too. I mean, it's probably dairy's probably not good for me either. I don't know. Again, I'm not a food scientist, but the little research that I have done is the way food makes you feel. There is no set diet. It's quite matter of fact. Food science is sort of like a scientific failure, if anything. Like, holy shit, our scientific development on food has not been good compared to other fields. Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible. Lab grown meat, though, when it comes to the brain, like certain things your body doesn't break down. Oh, is there issues? My understanding was that like lab grown meat was quite literally the exact same thing. It was just produced in a different way rather than a natural birth life cycle. It's the same exact structure of meat, but I don't know. That's interesting. Ooh, discussion around libertarianism. Interesting. Moral theories are interesting, but I don't know if I I have a pluralistic outlook on a lot of things, and moral theory is probably one of those as well. Like, there's arguments to be made against utilitarianism for sure. The Alzheimer's researchers my mom works with say don't touch it. Interesting. Well, I don't even know where to get it. I don't even know if they're selling that shit in the United States, but interesting. I did not know that. If you have an article about that, I'd actually be really interested to read that. I mean, I could probably look it up and find one. I've never heard that. That's interesting. I'll go vegan before I eat science meat. Well, so everything that I've seen from it is actually, it's like the same thing. It's literally just meat. They take the cell structure from protein from the actual beef itself and they develop it from there. So like structurally, it's theoretically the same thing. Now, granted, Seth brought up that they said don't eat it. That, if there's any concerns, I would love to know that, because I've always thought, like, I've always been optimistic, but then I've never heard anything that bad about lab grown meat. Other than some people think it's just weird and whatever. I don't care about that. The food industry in Italy is largely under co-ops. That's interesting. That's really cool, actually. That's good. Definitely not the case in the United States. Yeah, and that's what I was thinking about too, is like real meat also is like almost like modified at this point too. Oh, avoid red meat in general. Oh, fuck me, man. I hope I'm not in trouble. I eat red meat all the time. Oh shit. And the one thing I don't want Alzheimer's. Fuck that. Fuck that. Supposedly Beyond Meats, a lot of just food agriculture in general does. Well, guys, I think I think that's gonna be it for today. Interesting interesting stuff. So I think that's going to be it. Guys, our video is going to premiere in just a little bit. I enjoyed streaming. I always like streaming with you guys. I appreciate you guys. It's always a lot of fun. It genuinely is. I always like having conversation, stuff like that. I enjoy it a ton. So thank you guys for hanging out. Again, I wouldn't be able to do any of this. I always say this to end the stream. I wouldn't be able to do any of this without patrons. Guys, if you guys want to support, keep all this alive, a couple dollars a month, get you some perks, you get early access to videos. You get these live streams in VOD form. Once they're done, I upload them to Patreon in a couple days. Yeah. So if you guys consider doing that, also you could bookmark our Amazon link in the description down below. If you guys make any purchase from Amazon, use that link. Amazon has to pay me a couple dollars, so that's cool. But yeah, so I appreciate all you guys. It's always a ton of fun. Do you stream at a regular time? I don't have. So, no Hitman stream. Oh, okay. I would. We'll go back. We'll do that. We'll do that for sure, Bogdan. We will. I won't be able to do it today, but we will do it. I promise you. I don't. Since I'm in school, my schedule's chaotic. But once I'm done, guys, and I try to do this full time, I will. I think I'll have a regular schedule. But I appreciate all you guys here. Again, Patreon keeps all this alive. Guys, consider pledging a couple dollars a month or becoming a member on YouTube. You can press the join button down there. Yeah, you guys get some cool perks, whatever. So, yeah. Hey, Ian, one question. What's up? What's up? Love your streaming videos. Keep up doing what you do. It's great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. What time is it? Oh, shit. It's 4:20. Fuck yeah. It's 4:20. Linux already knows. All right, guys. That is all. I'm going to head on out of here. Again, our video is going to premiere in a little bit. I'll see you guys all there. I appreciate all of you. See you guys.